You're awake right now. You are not dead, and you haven't gone to hell, said Rachel Maddow, former host on CNN, following the 2016 election. Ladies and gentlemen, people are angry about politics. Donald Trump had similar words following the 2020 election. You're not going to have a country anymore. Late night host Jimmy Kimmel cried on stage following the 2024 election. It was a terrible night for women and children, for democracy and decency. Well, here, Rachel Maddow, Donald Trump, and Jimmy Kimmel made sensational claims. But they didn't make these claims to solve a problem. Instead, they wanted drama, and they achieved it by displaying shock and anger to the cameras. This is called false outrage. Even though false outrage is designed for the cameras, it influences others. Actually, it doesn't just influence them. It infects them. False outrage is a disease. And to cure this disease, we must decide that anger is not the solution to complex problems. Today, we'll start by diagnosing our culture with false outrage, move on to its symptoms, and conclude with the cure. If our culture could walk into a doctor's office, it would come away with a severe diagnosis of false outrage. So, what's the difference between real and false outrage? Real outrage wants what is right. It only cares about achieving good. False outrage wants to be seen. An excellent example of false outrage is in George Orwell's dystopian novel, 1984. In the book, the communist regime mandates a daily practice, known as the 2 minutes of hate. Every day, the citizens gather in front of their TVs and scream in outrage as images of their capitalist enemies flicker by on the screen. The citizens achieve nothing with their outrage. They only perform. This type of performative outrage is all over the internet today. As a study in Science magazine by Killian McLaughlin and her colleagues found, quote, social media posts that express outrage are liked and shared more, training users to express more outrage and ranking algorithms to amplify it, unquote. For example, Benny Johnson, a conservative podcaster, uses outrage to attract views. And nearly all of his videos feature AI-generated images of screaming politicians. In one of his recent videos, for example, an AI-generated image of Donald Trump screams in Eskimo clothing, along with Vladimir Putin. It doesn't make any sense. But Benny Johnson has 15 million followers. Unfortunately, false outrage doesn't stay online. It's also in the real world. It's also spreading in the real world. The Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression points this out in a report. Quote, this year more than 2/3 of students, 68%, said that shouting down a speaker is at least rarely acceptable. Unquote. The report noted that this 68% is a record high. College students are now more willing than ever before to use outrage to silence conversations. This happens all around us. 3 years ago, my grandparents and I went to the March for Life in Washington, D.C. While we were there, when the march ended, I decided to keep my poster as a souvenir. A woman on the sidewalk saw me carrying that poster, walked over to me, and started screaming at me. She didn't achieve anything with her anger. She just yelled. Online and in person, outrage is spreading. So now that we've diagnosed our culture with false outrage, let's talk about the symptoms. The actual effects of false outrage. False outrage causes us to have angry conversations and to believe that our anger makes us good people. As Writers for the Minimalist, a blog that encourages simple living, put it, quote, we've all gotten offended without asking ourselves why, and then used our fake outrage to cast judgment on others. It helped us feel bad. and pretending to be outraged is easier than attempting to breach the walls of introspection. Unquote. Outrage. When we pretend to be outraged, we don't have to reason through our beliefs. Piers Morgan, the British host of a political show with 4 million followers, uses false outrage to avoid hard questions. In a 2017 interview, when his guest questioned Piers' stance on gun policy, Piers just responded, "How dare you?" His face tightening for the camera. "Oh, Piers, you can keep saying that, but my point still stands," responded his guest. "Again, how dare you?" Piers repeated. Nothing Piers said advanced the debate. Instead, he used outrage to shield himself, because outrage is easier than analysis. False outrage is like hiding under the bed during hide and seek. It will hide you well, but it's a terrible place to be. Performative outrage is a terrible place to be. Humans express outrage because it makes us feel like good people. Psychologist Joshua Grubbs, in a 2019 study, found that public figures express outrage in order to receive applause from their audience in what he calls moral grandstanding. When public figures condemn some far-off event, they receive praise for their bravery and courage. Stephen Colbert, another late-night host, has done exactly that. After Donald Trump held a rally at Madison Square Garden in New York City, Colbert responded, quote, "Well, I'm sure it's just a coincidence, but in 1939 they held a pro-Nazi rally there," unquote. With this remark, Colbert insinuated that Trump is pro-Nazi. Having created a straw man out of Trump, an evil Nazi, Colbert spared no words, swearing at Trump live on national television. His statements make sense because his worldview treats outrage as virtuous. Author Glenn Beck describes the human effect of false outrage in his book, Addicted to Outrage. Quote, "It deprives human beings of genuine humanity, replacing it instead with an outwardly facing caricature of a virtuous human being wrapped around a rotting corpse." Unquote. This worldview has morality backwards. False outrage replaces good deeds with outraged words. Our culture embraces false outrage. Politicians and media figures promote it. They don't deserve all the blame, but their worldview does deserve the blame. Their worldview is false. Fake outrage is not a virtue, and moral grandstanding is not a good deed. This moral confusion has eroded the genuine compassion of millions and transformed it into outrage. But I wouldn't have accomplished anything if I told you to be outraged at false outrage. That would be a terrible cure to this sickness. I used to be addicted to outrage. I was angry at every news story. I debated every little detail. Thankfully, after reading Glenn Beck's book, Addicted to Outrage, I was convicted. I realized what I had been doing. Quote, "Set your mind on things above, not on earthly." Colossians Colossians 3 verse 2 says, quote, "Set your mind on things above, not on earthly things." I made a pledge to stop being outraged at earthly things. Imagine if everyone stopped practicing false outrage. If everyone stopped being so angry. If we calmly discussed difficult questions, stopped believing our outrage makes us good people. That world is only possible if you help build it. To take a quote from Darth Vader in Star Wars completely out of context. Quote, "With our combined strength, we can end this destructive conflict and bring order to the galaxy." Unquote. We've diagnosed the culture with false outrage, seen its symptoms, and discussed the cure. You won't improve the world by being angry. Focus on something higher than the next controversy. You have a whole life to live. Don't waste it being angry.